Sports Live on a Friday. We're talking Vols because the Vols have a new athletic director and Danny White coming over from Central Florida, where he's been there for several years. He's made a bunch of great hires and he's put the Central Florida Knights on the map, Zach. So we'll talk about what Danny White means for the Vols and really what? What you just laughing out of the gate?
You got a little more pep in your voice. I don't know why.
I mean, you bring the juice every day, right? Is that something that you always talk about, bringing the juice?
I respect the juice.
The juice is here, and I
think it's not just orange juice. It may have a little. It's like a mimosa, right? So it's a different type of juice.
Well, my mimosas are very pale, so
I can hear the inflection.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a big thing. Like they hired Danny White, who's from UCF. He was at Spike Juice, says Tony, but he was at Buffalo before that. I think this hire of an AD sends two clear messages to the Tennessee Volunteers fan base. James on YouTube already got in the comment section before we even started saying, honestly, it shocked me they went that big. So we're going to talk a lot about that. What does this mean for Tennessee's head coaching search? And I'll get through the two messages. We'll get your impact and your thoughts on the hiring of Danny White as Vols AD. Is Steph coming in hot, Zach, saying he's coming to steal Kiffin from you, Zach. He's coming to get your boy Lane Train. Yeah, Lane Train to Knoxville. I highly doubt it. But
I will not address that.
But we will.
And Tony Basilio, whatever the hell his name is ridiculous.
Tony Basilio is a very well-connected person, and he's been doing
that's all well and good, but him spewing out rhetoric about Lane Kiffin coming to Tennessee is crap-ass reporting. That's all that is, and I will call that out from Nashville. Look, you can live in Knoxville all your damn life, but that is the biggest load of BS I've ever heard, and he's doing that for hits on his radio show and whatever the hell else he owns. But people have been commenting and making sure I see that on Twitter that dude in Knoxville is talking about Lane Kiffin. He's trolling you. Look, granted, but I can see through that. The lenses are clear, my friend, over here. In Knoxville, they are completely orange. So don't listen to that Lane Kiffin BS from Basilio or Tony Baselli. I don't know what the hell his name is. But don't believe it, okay?
I don't know, man. Tony Basilio has been right a lot of times with the University of Tennessee. Regardless, we will talk about new head coaching options for the Vols now with Danny White. There was a new report that came out from John Bryce literally right before we hit go live this morning. So a lot to talk about, and we will discuss the NFC and AFC championship game later on in the show. We've got Ain't That Good News, and Zach, we've also got something that's going to raise my heart rate tremendously, that I have to sing a Disney song at the end of the show. So I think I'm prepared. I'm terrified. I'm nervous. I will probably screw it up, and I will probably sound as tone deaf as I am. But the Disney song from the Magic Bucket, thanks to my wife, I will sing that at the end of the show with good news. So it's a loaded show. It was going to be a loaded show without Danny White, but it's even a more loaded show with Danny White. So let's get this thing rocking.
So, Austin, before I ask for shares, can you give us a hint of maybe a character within the Disney film?
I will say, within the lyrics that I've chosen, which is a verse and a chorus, I will be doing a total of 3 voices. That is my hint. I don't know if that's a hint, but I will be doing a total of 3 voices.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and these Lane Kiffin comments are ridiculous. Lane's son's name's Knox. He's coming back home. Come on, guys. Stop. Okay. Before you stop doing that and being skewed, please share the show. That would help us out a great deal, right? Bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Twitter, we're broadcasting on Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. We are going to have a great show today, besides the fact. And look, we started the show the way that it is, but I have my opinion on what Tennessee did yesterday. And more optimistic than pessimistic because of the rut they were in. So we're going to get your opinion. We're going to get everybody's opinion. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube page. More live video going out there, including primetime and podcasts and good content if you are a fan of Nashville and Tennessee sports in general. But we also need you guys to share the show on Facebook. Bottom left corner of your screen, Share now to public. Sharing is caring. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. So, Austin, let's get this party started.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports, and you like our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they truly do make it happen for our show, and they help out you guys. Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlord in the Nashville area. renterswarehouse.com. To find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room at mandu.com. Your first workout's free. The Tucker Agency, easy money here. Save money on your personal insurance by going to tuckertn.com. And also the Calvin and Settle for your brand new hardwood floors and finishings. calvinandsettle.com is their website. And the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. So we were on the way to a meeting yesterday when the news came out that Danny White was being hired as the Vols' new athletic director. So two messages I think that this sends the fan base. And I'll give a little background for those who haven't had a chance to research Danny White yet and what he's done. Danny White absolutely has a athletic director pedigree. His father, Kevin, is currently the AD at Duke at age 71. His brother, Brian, is the AD at FAU. His sister, Mariah, is an assistant AD at SMU. And his brother, Mike, is the head basketball coach at Florida. His father, Kevin, was also the AD at Notre Dame, even before he went to Duke. So this guy has been an athletic director and had this in his, out right when he came out of the womb, right? This is what he's been doing for a long time. He was at Buffalo before he went to UCF. And Zach, here are the names. He's hired 6 coaches as an athletic director, and he's 100% hit rate. He hired Lance Leopold, the Buffalo head coach, who's had the best Buffalo football seasons in their school history. He hired 2 basketball coaches at Buffalo, Nate Oates and Bobby Hurley, who were both hired away for Power 5 jobs. He hired at UCF Scott Frost. We all know Scott Frost, who went undefeated, won a national championship at UCF. Then he followed that up with Josh Heupel, who went 24-4 through his first 2 years. And then he hired Johnny Dawkins. Remember Taco Fall versus Zion in that NCAA tournament game? Johnny Dawkins has been really successful there with the Knights at UCF. He's 6 for 6 when it comes to head coaching hires and basketball and football at 2 different schools. This has to make you feel really, really strong about what Danny White can be for the Vols as their athletic director.
Yeah, well, you talk about messages that it sends. And I don't know what your message is, but the message that it sent to me, and again, I'm not a Tennessee fan, but I think what it sent to the fan base is that the Tennessee leadership had to reset and try their hardest to get this correct from the top down, right? They didn't go ass backwards and say, hey, Kevin Steele's going to be the head coach no matter what. Then we're going to work back from that. They didn't do that, right? They said we have to target the right individual. The resume, as you just explained, is there. And then two reasons why a Danny White type goes to a situation that is unsettled. Money and power. Money and power. It's really the thing that makes the world go round.
Yeah.
And so Tennessee was willing to give Danny White, I don't know his contract.
Oh, I've got it if you're ready.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got all these numbers.
Tell me what the contract is.
Danny White, I don't know how many years, but it's a longer term. But Danny White will be making $1.8 million a year at Tennessee. He will incrementally get a raise as the years go on. But $1.8 million makes him the highest paid athletic director in the SEC over Greg Byrne from Alabama. It makes him the 4th highest paid athletic director of public universities in the entire country behind Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas Tech. So Tennessee ponied up.
There you go. And the Texas Tech, which is the random one, that athletic director was on the college football playoff committee and he was the head of it for a couple of years. So that makes sense of why that is. That money. So that tells me everything I need to know.
A 5-year contract there. Appreciate that.
So that tells me a lot. They're willing to pay the money to get this correct because Danny White's going to a tough situation, but it also tells me if you're going to pay the man that type of money and he ranks in ADs all across the country in the top 5, that tells me that Tennessee is giving him the keys and saying, you are able to do what you feel is necessary to get Tennessee football back. Basketball is thriving. Besides the losing to Florida, that was just a hiccup. They're a good program. Rick Barnes has them right. But football makes the money, and they were a laughing stock. They were talking about Happy Meals and all that other stuff that Dan Patrick lit a fire to this week, and now they've reset. I want to say one last thing because before I get your reaction. Yeah. I did think it was funny based on his resume. If Vol Twitter, you know, what was trending on Vol Twitter?
What?
Home run higher.
Yeah.
Home run higher. Home run higher. Those were the words that all of the Vol fan base said yesterday that I saw on Twitter, and that's based on the resume that he has. This was a good pull for a lot of money. But you got to do it.
Right. And so Stephen Godfrey, who, you know, I respect for the Banner Society, does a really good job, probably better than anybody that covers the entire SEC. He tweeted simply this: Tennessee just hired the right kind of asshole. And Zach, you know this. You need the right kind of asshole in a leadership position. That is important. You don't need a guy who's out for it for himself, Philip Fulmer, or a guy who's looking towards retirement and Dave Hart, or Mike Hamilton, who's a yes man to boosters. You need the right type of asshole to get there and run things. And now Godfrey followed this up Tennessee has to let him do his job. They can't be meddling and trying to overweigh who they just hired and paying $1.8 million a year to as their AD. That's double the money of Phil Fulmer's annual salary as AD that he just got fired from. So Danny White the hiring of Danny White, in my opinion, sends 2 messages to the Vols fan base. The first one is we've been talking with the firing of Jeremy Pruitt for cause, the potential of how these NCAA sanctions will impact the immediate and long-term future of the Tennessee Vols football program. Well, I think the fact that they went out there and threw this kind of money at an athletic director who's 40 or 41 years old. Wikipedia doesn't know exactly. But the fact is, they are not going to let potential NCAA sanctions impact what they think is the best move long term. They don't care. Money is not an issue right now. They just showed us all that. Money's not a problem. They're going to do what the best thing is, and they're going to do what they want, and regardless of what happens with the NCAA. I highly predict that the NCAA will give them decently heavy punishments, but it doesn't matter if they put the money where their mouth is, hire the right AD, which they've done in Danny White, and then go out there and get the right coach that Danny White picks off of his 6-0 record of hiring head coaches in football and basketball at Buffalo and UCF. I think that's a big message, that they're not worried about the NCAA right now. They're going to keep moving forward and do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's the impact of the scholarships that because that holds the head coach back. Danny White, you could be 6-0, but none of those 6 coaches have had to deal or would have to deal with the punishment that Tennessee is going to get. We don't know what that is, but it's not going to be light. They were paying players. You can't do that. That's illegal. And that's Jeremy Pruitt's fault. That's Philip Fulmer's fault. That's anybody involved in handing money over to college athletes. You can't do it. So I think Tennessee fans will be somewhat patient. They need to understand that this head coach is going to be working behind the 8 ball to start out over the next couple of years, right?
Yeah.
And so that, like, all the things that you said are absolutely correct. I think that this is a solid hire based on his resume. He obviously, and I value this. A lot of people don't because they just say name, name, name. Danny White obviously won the interview. When you talk to somebody that goes a long way. And that is why you are hired. People are like, well, why aren't they hiring him? Why aren't they hiring him? Well, maybe he was terrible in a face-to-face conversation or a Zoom conversation. And that, for me, when we hire people at A to Z, that is the biggest thing. You have to show me and wow me that you are willing to do what it takes. Danny White obviously did that to Tennessee, and they obviously paid him, right? This is a huge jump in Danny White's career, because if he can turn Tennessee around, I mean, that is a massive, massive undertaking, but it is a massive, massive success in the scope of universities in general and programs in general, if he's able to pull that off.
A to Z Sports, the Vols hired Danny White as AD. He will be introduced in Knoxville around noon Eastern time later today. Here's our first question. I've already given you one of the messages, which is that the Vols will do whatever it takes to do what they want, regardless of potential NCAA sanctions. That's the first message. The second message, a little teaser here, has to do with the type of head coach that Danny White will hire for the Vols this cycle. So we'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's ask you guys right now, what's one word you want to use to describe the Vols hiring Danny White as athletic director? What's one word to describe the hire as Danny White as AD? But first, let me tell you guys about Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Full body electronic muscle stimulation. The science is real. The results are real. It's easy on your joints. It's tough on your muscles. It gets 95% of your muscle fibers, when a regular gym workout gets like 60%. So get deep in those muscles. Achieve your fitness goals in 2021 by going to mandu.com. It's perfectly pandemic safe because it's always been by appointment only with you, maybe one other person, and the trainer, educated trainers as well. Mandu.com. Your first workout is absolutely free.
We're talking about the Tennessee Vols' new athletic director, Danny White, who was hired yesterday. That was reported all over Twitter. He will be introduced, and then you move on to what his next head coach is. But before we get to that, the question we're asking you is one word to describe the hiring of Danny White. Let's go to the chat. Let's go to the comment section. Let's see what you guys are saying. One word. Jeremy says, boom. That is the one word. Tony says hope. Alan says promise. Walter says huge. Brandon's going with the grand slam. Rational from James. I like that word, James. I like that. You get a like from there. Eric says hesitant.
Okay, look, that's fair. You can be hesitant. You should be hesitant.
Steph Dobbs says correct. Home run coming in from Brian. Reset from Mark. Outstanding from Jason. Hardy goes with competent. Solid from Mike. Impressive from John. Solid from Eddie. I'm not even going to read BB Vols' comment because it's so asinine. Brilliant from Donnie. Surprised from Brian. Outstanding from Big Ten Jeff right there. Another boom.
Hey, how about Big Ten Jeff saying the Vols did something that's outstanding?
Right? Well, and again, the resume shows nobody knew Danny White before yesterday. Let's just be honest, right? You didn't know.
Disagree. I mean, like the average fan.
If I would have asked you, okay, Austin, if I would have asked you last week, who's the athletic director for UCF, what would you have said?
I would have said, I don't know. But if you would have said, hey, do you know about Danny White? I'm like, oh, yeah, that Danny White. Yeah, he's got a good reputation. Like it's something that I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not saying I knew much about. I'm talking about people. Danny White is a known commodity at UCF.
It doesn't matter, but that's wrong. Javid says shook, powerful from Marcus. A lot of good words coming in. Impressive, building from Mikey, hopeful from Corey, strategic from Brad. Austin, what is your one word?
Well, I did like that our guy Kelkins on Facebook or on Periscope says BDE, which is what I tweeted yesterday, that this was a BDE hire by Tennessee there. But my one word has already been stolen, because the one word that I used earlier in the week to describe the situation that Tennessee found itself in was incompetence. My word is competence. Like, this is an actual competent hire. And the craziest thing about this hire, Zach, is how many athletic directors did they interview for the job? Uno. One. When is the last time that the University of Tennessee interviewed and hired their first candidate.
Never.
The guy that they wanted, that they interviewed, and he accepted the job. That doesn't happen at Tennessee. It really doesn't happen anywhere. But they interviewed one dude, they got him to say yes, they paid him for it, and he's come over there. So competence is my one word, because the guy has done it before. They're just coming off an incompetent athletic director because he had no idea what the hell he was doing. In Philip Fulmer, he was also pulling strings selfishly behind the scenes for the last several years. And then he retired to a fired compensation of getting $37,000 a month through the next 2 years, in Philip Fulmer just being ridiculous. But competence is what this is.
Well, that was the contract he signed, so they have to.
But they said that he retired when they actually fired him. Like, that's the difference.
Because he's Philip Fulmer.
Right.
He's the last coach to bring a national championship to the university. They're not going to completely just crap on him,
right.
But which he kind of crapped on them. But that's beside the point. Robert brings this up. He says, Zach, you made a statement that Tennessee was handing out money. Has that been proved, or is it just a statement from one sports announcer? Robert. The Tennessee Volunteers football program were handing out money to their players. All right.
They were not doing it via McDonald's bags.
No.
But they were doing it.
Right. They were
doing it via Brian Niedermeyer's recruiting phone, which is what they got in December and had the ball rolling.
And that's not a slight on Robert. He asked the question and we just have to answer it. So here's my answer, and take your Butch Jones glasses out. I'm not even referencing this. But my one word for Danny White being hired as the new athletic director of the University of Tennessee is foundation, because Tennessee had to restart. They had to reset, out with the old, in with the new, and you had to set a new foundation. Now, you're going to have some building restrictions when you're building this house, right? The inspector's going to come in and he's going to be a little bit more hard on you building this house. But I do believe, from the resume, from all the houses that Danny White has built and all the builders he's hired, this should and could be a pretty damn good house. So foundation is my one word, because as you referenced, Austin, they went out, they interviewed their guy, they targeted their guy, and they got their guy.
Yep.
And that is no better feeling, right, in a business when you target an employee and you go out and get him because you believe that is the guy to take you to the next level. And whether he does it or not, that's okay. But at the time, that is important. My one word is foundation.
All right, A to Z Sports. So we got Brooks who's trolling us in the comment section saying, no, they were not paying players. Lies. And then Brooks says, I can't wait till they release the true facts. And Brooks says, A to Z is clickbait, boys. Look, Brooks. And what Brooks does say, Tom Herman is the hire. I would like Tom Herman, but we'll talk about that in a second. No, Tennessee was absolutely paying players. Like, look at the 4 people who went into the transfer portal Wednesday night. Henry Toto, Eric Gray, Jameer Johnson, and Quavaris Crouch.
They're getting the hell out of Dodge.
Those 4 guys all have something in common, and it's not currently being in the transfer portal. Their deals are no longer deals because the head coach and the assistant coaches who promised them said deals are no longer there. Like, it's so obvious. And all the things that we've been saying over the past month since the Texas A&M game that I've been saying is that Tennessee could have fired Jeremy Pruitt on December 20th for cause. They had him. They had enough. They could have made Brian Niedermeyer the fall guy if they wanted to, but they dug deeper and found a lot more, and that Jeremy Pruitt had to go. And then a lot of these players, and I'm telling you again, you can go look at the guys who were out of the A&M game, and one of those guys was the facilitator of the cash to the other players. Like, that is the situation that happened. They were paying their guys. Do other SEC schools and Power 5 football teams pay their guys? Yes. Tennessee did it so bad that it was obvious to everybody. They got caught with their pants down because they did it sloppily. Not with McDonald's bags, but they were paying guys cash. Absolutely.
I find it hard and Brooks sounds like he's in denial, right? Like, why would there be a blow up? Like, why would they just fire everybody for no reason? You think it was just like too many pasta dinners at Applebee's? No, Like this is cold hard cash. This is the business. This is college football. And they did it poorly, as you said, Austin, and here they are. No, so that was the past, right? I think here's the one thing that I will say, and I will applaud. Golf clap. Golf clap to Tennessee for moving swiftly. They sent a signal to the fan base and the rest of college football and to their board and to all of their boosters that we're not just going to hang around, wait on, and hope Kevin Steele just kind of maintains for a little while, take our time, live in this purgatory. No, they can't afford to do that because of COVID. The last year they lost a ton of money. They needed to go get and start to rebuild their house, if you take that analogy a little bit further. And they, instead of waiting because it was raining or snowing, they went out and said, look, we're going to start today. And they moved very, very quickly. So I was impressed that Tennessee moved as quickly as they did to get their new athletic director so they could get to work. You can't wait on the NCAA because if you do, you're just going to be waiting around. You cannot work like that. Yep. They'll hold you hostage. So that is kudos to Tennessee for what they did and how quickly they did it.
All right, Zach. So I said this hiring of Danny White sends two messages. The first message is, right, what you just said, what you just reiterated. They're not going to wait on the NCAA, and they're not going to allow potential NCAA sanctions to impact what they think is the best decision long term. So now that Danny White is the Vols AD, I want to know, who do you want as head coach? And I'll also tell you the second message this sends to the Vol fan base. But first, tell everybody about Calvin and Subtle.
Yeah, calvinandsettle.com is where you need to get your hardwood floors. We've been featuring them. If you're in Nashville area, if you're in the surrounding Middle Tennessee area, you can get a hardwood floor. Look at this bad boy. This could be right in your bedroom, your living room, your den, your kitchen. Replace that old carpet and put some new hardwood floors up. Calvin and Suttle's got you covered. They're trusted right here in Middle Tennessee. 615-448-6414. Look, this looks a hell of a lot better than your piss-stained carpet from old Rex running around. Get hardwood floors, pristine. Your kids will be rollerblading, roller skating all spring and all summer long. That is calvinandsettle.com.
A to Z Sports here live on the show. Don't forget, we've got picks later on this morning. MyBookie.ag, code MyTitans for extra cash for that first deposit at MyBookie.ag. Code MyTitans here live talking Vols. So now that Danny White is the AD, we're going to read your comments of who you want as Vols head coach. But the second message it sends is something that we talked about on Tuesday, Zach, and what I think everybody was concerned with is that Kevin Steele would get the head coaching job for 2021, and then they would do another search next year, and Kevin Steele would have the opportunity to earn it, Ed Orgeron style / Matt Luke style. And that was it wasn't a one
of those
thing.
Worked, the other one didn't.
Yeah. And so here's the second message. That's not happening. Kevin Steele is not going to be the head coach for 2021. That is message number 2, because it's pretty obvious of what who Danny White's hired as his 3 football head coaches that he's hired, all offensive guys. Lance Leopold at Buffalo, Scott Frost and Heupel right there at UCF. He's going offensive minded, which is absolutely the need that Tennessee needs to do. So it's not Kevin Steele. Now, I think it's not a bad thing to have Kevin Steele on the staff, whether it's D coordinator or assistant defensive coach, whatever it might be. I think Kevin Steele can bring a lot of things to the table for the Vols situation. As I said the other day, Kevin Steele has relationships throughout the Southeast that will help you in recruiting and in the transfer portal, bring other transfers to your program. That could absolutely happen. So Kevin Steele not going to be the head coach. That's the second message.
Yeah, and that is important. Kevin Steele is not. Tennessee fans want hope, right? They want to believe that they can right this ship sooner rather than later. They don't want to wait around. So if they can go out, and Tennessee is I don't want to say it's a great job because of the sanctions, right? I think it is a very difficult job, but I think if you can turn a corner, it can be a very gratifying job, right? It's just no coach has been able to do that. Butch Jones was not able to do that. Derek Dooley was not able to do that. Jeremy Pruitt was not able to do that. can they bring in a guy that has the acumen to say, look, the past is the past. We need to start setting the record straight, doing things the right way, and winning football games, right? Winning football games in the sense of competing and beating the likes of Florida and Georgia, competing with Alabama, which is very, very hard. And I do think playing Alabama every single year could be a deterrent. Like, that is not one of those things to say, hell yeah, right? Going to Ole Miss, you get to say, ooh, you get to play Vanderbilt every year. Cross-division rival. I'm in, right? Lane Kiffin won that battle. But when you're at Tennessee, because of the rivalry, one-sided be it, but Alabama is a tough pull. So you're going to have a guy that can compete, but you need to beat Florida and Georgia. That don't focus on Alabama. Focus on Florida and Georgia. If you could beat one of those two teams, something that Jeremy Pruitt struggled with because of the state of Georgia and Florida at the time, but that is your key to success and winning over a fan base that is foaming at the mouth to win the SEC East.
Yeah. So what coach do you want to see hired? Smiley says Matt Rule. That's not happening. He's not leaving the NFL. A lot of people are talking about Tony Elliott and Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is so not going to happen. He's not going to leave an SEC program after 1 year to go to a program with NCAA sanctions twice in his lifetime. That is just something that's not going to happen. Rob says Matt Campbell needs a call. Matt Campbell will not get a call because Matt Campbell doesn't want to leave the Midwest. Matt Campbell is probably waiting on the NFL or another Big Ten job like that.
But Matt Campbell has done a very good job at Iowa State. He has turned the Cyclones around. He has made them more relevant, I would say, since Seneca Wallace. That was the last time that Iowa State was worth a damn, or it was even in our mouths, with Seneca Wallace. And God knows, I don't even know when he played. Let's play a little. Let's play a little trivia. Seneca Wallace, when did he play? When did he graduate Iowa State?
I'm going to say 2005 or 2006.
Close. You were just off. He was drafted in 2003. So is he last year? Seneca Wallace is 40 years old.
That's wild.
Yeah. But Matt Campbell, I kind of tend to agree with you, Austin. But they need a coach that has some notoriety, though, because they just have this new AD. I think maybe they can be in the running for maybe. Look, the names don't change for me. I'm going to go ahead and answer this.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I'm curious to see maybe how it has changed for you. I said the other day that the three head coaches that I would target if I was athletic director that I think would bring stability, experience, and some juice to the fan base. 1, Gus Malzahn, 2, Tom Herman, and then 3, Jamie Chadwell of Coastal Carolina. Notable name, has had some iffy things in the past as it relates to violations, but I think he's since amended those. But he brings offensive-minded. All 3 of those coaches are offensive-minded. And as you said, that's the type of guy that Danny White is probably going to hire, and that's the type of coach that Tennessee needs. They don't need to be in defensive purgatory where an head coach will just keep Garantano in the game throwing pick after pick after pick. They need an offensive mind, a guru, a guy who can groom talent, whether it's Harrison Bailey or Saltner coming in. It doesn't matter, but they have to pay attention because look at the teams that have had success, right? Florida and Alabama, those offense.
I mean, you look at what Mac Brown was able to do in the first couple of years of taking over North Carolina after being out of it for like 6-7 years. And all he had to get was Sam Howell. He got a quarterback who was legit, and now North Carolina's in a different place. It's all about the quarterback at every level of football. At Pee Wee, at high school, at college, and at the NFL, it's all about the quarterback. And you have to get a coach, a head coach who understands the quarterback play. You can't get Jeremy Pruitt, who goes out there and doesn't care about the quarterback position because he's a defensive ball. Right. But you can't have Chris Winkie as your damn quarterback coach who's never developed the quarterback, but he won a Heisman Trophy, and so that's what he's riding off of. And he has recruiting connections because he coached the IMG Academy. But that doesn't mean that he actually knows how to develop quarterbacks. You've got to get a guy who knows the quarterback position because, as I've talked several times, Jim Chaney is a play caller. Jim Chaney is not a quarterback coach. When he was a quarterback coach on coaching staffs, the head coach ahead of him was the quarterback developer. Jim Chaney was just the quarterback coach by title for game planning purposes. Jim Chaney's not that type of guy. You have to get a head coach that understands the position.
Well, look at the top 5 teams in the country right now. I think we both believe that expansion of the college football playoff is probably nearing, but look at the quarterbacks or offensive-minded head coaches at the top of the entire college football scope. You had Mac Jones, Kyle Trask was in there, Kellen Mond, their head coaches, Dan Mullen and Jimbo Fisher, both offensive-minded. Trevor Lawrence, that's all I need to say. Brian Kelly for Notre Dame, even though they're awful when they get into big games. Brian Kelly is an offensive-minded head coach. Like these, that's what you need. And if Tennessee, and that is a light years away from where they are right now is competing for that, but it does send of the recipe of what makes good food is you need an offensive-minded head coach, and Alabama's an anomaly, right? Nick Saban's the greatest head coach of all time in college football, right? So we're not talking about him. We're talking about everybody else and how they've climbed the ladder and climbed the ranks with a good quality quarterback. Kyle Trask, what Dan Mullen, you can hate for it all you want, but what Dan Mullen did with Kyle Trask was pretty effing amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That was a Dan Mullen thing, and Kyle Trask took advantage. Even Kellen Mond, he finally turned a corner this year with Jimbo Fisher. He didn't play up and down. Now, they had one of the hardest schedules in college football 2 years ago.
Yeah, this year it was one of the easiest in the SEC.
Right? So there's a give and take there, but that is your recipe. Tennessee, look at it and do it. That's what they need to do.
All right, so I've got new names that are now on the table for the Vols head coaching job because of Danny White. But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. Again, renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. There's so many different ways you can use Renters Warehouse. If you're looking to create extra cash flows for you and your family, renterswarehouse.com. They earn that long-term equity, get that mailbox money rolling. Don't just sell your home. It's a one-time transaction. It's boom, done. You got commissions and closing costs that come out of that too. But you can turn your home, your property into a cash machine with renterswarehouse.com.
I want to give a compliment because we've been throwing this picture out there, at least I have throughout the week. Austin, I do think that the flames are dying down a little bit. Okay. They're not as high as they used to be. I think that they're starting to throw water on the fire and start to clean things up. And that's a big thing for Tennessee of what they've been through over the last 5 days.
No doubt. All right, new names. And I want to walk through these all kind of individually. The newest name that came out this morning, like 40 minutes ago, right before we went live, Zach, was Tony Elliott, of the offensive coordinator from Clemson. And so I'm reading from John Bryce at Football Scoop that allegedly, according to John Bryce, that what helped Danny White get the job is that he said in his interviews, I've got an offensive-minded guy ready to go. And when he hired—
What does that mean?
I mean, it can mean several things. So we'll talk about a couple of them right now. An offensive guy ready to go.
This is all new to me, right? So you are on the more scope of this. So I am like a viewer. I'm sitting in the chat waiting and listening. This is the first time I've heard this name.
Yes. And so, quote, he told Tennessee Wednesday night he has an offensive coach ready to go and that apparently helped Tennessee get the deal done quickly. So then you look back, Tony Elliott is somebody he's liked, somebody he talked to a lot after Scott Frost left UCF. He went and hired Josh Heupel, who was the OC at Missouri at the time. And so far that's worked. And Nate says, is Football Scoop reputable? Yeah, Football Scoop's great, but it's John Bryce and Football Scoop. John Bryce has been on the Tennessee beat for decades at several different places.
He's just a casualty of sports media.
Well, no, he left on his own accord. There were some things that happened, but now he's dipping his toe back. But John Bryce,
movement, right? Whatever you want to call it, casualty or movement. Sports media moves. That's just how it works, especially because of money,
yes,
or lack thereof, or in abundance. But
right.
I do agree there is more weight because of the connection there.
Yes, and Robert says, Austin, you said Lane would not leave a program after 1 year and getting hammered by the NCAA. He's already done that once, so he'll do it again. No, he did it once and got fired on the airport tarmac,
Rob,
meaning he's not going to do it again.
Let's
my God,
Austin, please. I've moved. I have blocked out all of these crap ass comments that have Lane Kiffin in them, and I haven't brought them up. So I would appreciate on the show to not bring them up, because I'm going to take the biggest victory lap when he does not get hired at Tennessee. All on these haters, on these people trolling, because they're not haters, they're trolls. That's what they are. So don't buy into that.
All right. So Tony Elliott's a name to look. Reed Carringer, Zach Reagan says this. Reed Carringer says he spoke to people this morning and that White is considering several options, not just one. Yeah, and Jeremy adds that Tony Elliott says he's not leaving Clemson. That might be the case. He wasn't going to leave Clemson for the Titans offensive coordinator job. We know that happened last week, but would he leave Clemson for an SEC head coaching job, and specifically the Tennessee head coaching job? That's a different thing. I don't know. But for Tony Elliott, I'm not all about that. I want a guy who's done it before. I want a guy who's been a head coach. I understand that Tony Elliott's a great play caller. He's a great recruiter, and he knows football and he's offensive mind, but he still hasn't run the program. Dabo does a lot of that, and Dabo takes a lot. And look at Chad Morris, didn't exactly work out great as a head coach in several places. So I'm not sold on Tony Elliott. The next name is obviously Josh Heupel, who is the head coach at UCF, who was Danny White's second hire at UCF. He fits the criteria. He's a current head coach. He's an offensive mind. He's had success, and he's got connections with Danny White, obviously. But I'm looking at Josh Heupel, and I don't know how you feel about this. Obviously, Scott Frost is having issues at Nebraska. I think Scott Frost is a damn good coach. Nebraska is a tough situation at this point.
Tennessee is a tough situation.
That was my next sentence. And it's easier on Heupel to succeed at UCF because of Scott Frost. You follow? Like, I feel like we don't know how much of Josh Heupel's success right now is because of Josh Heupel and not because of Scott Frost. And
yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
And
but
so
that's how college football works, right?
Sure.
New coach comes in and plays with the other guys' players.
Well, and Butch Jones rode Brian Kelly's coattails twice. He rode Brian Kelly's coattails at Central Michigan, then at Cincinnati, and then he earned that to get the Tennessee job, and then it flamed out. So I don't know how you feel. Josh Heupel, I'm not about, but that is a new name that is legitimately on the table. Lance Leopold is obviously on the table because he hired Leopold at Buffalo. That's Lance Leopold's won 6 national championships in D3 and has done really good things at Buffalo. I don't think that's exactly what I want to do. Jamie Chadwell feels like a great fit right here. Gus Malzahn doesn't. Danny White likes finding the young guy to build with, and that doesn't feel like Gus Malzahn to me.
Well, here I want to interject real quick, because I think that this hire also sends, I agree with you, Austin, in the sense of this hire, a head coach like Tom Herman and Gus Malzahn, they've already been at big-time schools without the sanctions, right? You're going to have to get a Danny White type guy to make the jump. Why did Danny White go from UCF to Tennessee? More money and in a whole different atmosphere of college athletics. You're going to have to get the same guy. Now, beggars can't be choosers, Austin. You sit there and you say, I want a head coach who's had a head coaching job before, but they're not as naive to say, well, I know how hard a head coaching job is. Why do I want to go into another situation that is going to be working behind the 8 ball for a couple of years when I don't even know the punishment that the NCAA is going to give me? I'm going to have to work, let's just say not cheat, right? You can't do any of that stuff because you got a magnifying glass on your university and on your program. So I do think that this hire does kind of change my opinion on getting the next guy, not the established fired guy.
Yeah, and so I'm reading some comments from our guy, Zach Reagan, who, by the way, you can go read his 2.0 hot board on the website, A2ZSportsNashville.com. He says White is an energetic guy, probably going to be a Chadwell type, right? the whole Stephen Godfrey tweet of Tennessee just hired the right kind of asshole. I mean, you got to have a personality that fits that too, right? Like Danny White being the right kind of ass is not going to go out there and hire a meek guy or a guy who's not as energetic or exuberant.
Oh yeah,
as he
same type of juice, right?
Yes. You talk about how I started the show with a little orange juice, maybe a little mimosa. Danny White's all about, I don't know, he's more about screwdriver. He's not going champagne. He's going straight vodka in that juice. And I feel like that's the stronger personality type fits with what Danny White wants, which is why I think Chadwell fits and why I'm interested in to see what Billy Napier thinks about this. Billy Napier turned down Auburn. And I don't know why. Maybe he's waiting on LSU. If Ed Orgeron has another down year, that job comes open. But Billy Napier, offensive guy, grew up in Cookeville. He understands what the Tennessee job means, and because of when he grew up, what Tennessee was at that point. So I'm curious if Billy Napier, Jamie Chadwell go into this. And then Reagan also adds here in the comment section that Brian Rice saying Tennessee wants to spend big money, and that makes this interesting.
And well, they want to spend big money because they can. They saved the money, at least so far. Jeremy Pruitt's probably going to file a lawsuit, but they saved a boatload of money by firing him with cause. They're not having to pay the buyouts that they're used to over the last decade. They're not having to slide into Derek Dooley's banking account every single month for the next several years, right? So that is big time. Here's the one thing I will say about this entire coaching hire. At the end of the day, Danny White has got to get his guy first. You cannot have this leak that 2 to 3 coaches say no, say pass, say no, I don't want to do that. I'm too unsure about the situation. The expectations are too high. No one's really worked out over the last 10 plus years. You cannot have that PR nightmare. Now, I think that's one of the reasons why they hired Danny White, to avoid that PR nightmare. And it's not Philip Fulmer just going to sign a good old boy. So you got to swing, and you don't have to hit a home run right in the first year, but you got to get on base. You can't wait to the guy on deck or the guy in the hole or the guy in the dugout.
Yeah, William brings up a great comment. He says, so do you take a gamble on one of the smaller school coaches, or do you find a big name that wants the job? Well, I mean, Jamie Chadwell is a small school coach, but he's so prominent because of what Coastal was this year that he feels different. Billy Napier kind of feels the same way as Chadwell because he's been in coaching conversations for bigger jobs for a while now. I still think Tom Herman could be an option in all this because he fits the mold of what Danny White wants.
And Tom Herman is ready to amend the perception that he was an awful head coach at Texas. He wasn't an awful head coach. He just wasn't reaching Texas's standards. And Texas's standards is college football playoff, right? It's the whole Ellinger, we're back. No, you weren't back. And so you can't claim that stake because they weren't competing with Oklahoma the way that they needed to year in and year out. But Tom Herman, I do think, has some juice and some fire to get back and to erase the perception that he wasn't a success at Texas. He wasn't Texas's success.
Right. For the record, or for what it's worth, Bruce Feldman just put out at The Athletic a new coaching candidate list, likely candidates for Tennessee. It's a bunch of the guys that we've talked about, but Bruce Feldman, obviously very well respected and connected across college football. He lists Billy Napier at Louisiana, Jamie Chadwell at Coastal Carolina, Lance Leopold at Buffalo, and Leopold did interview with Vanderbilt, and Vandy really liked him. Bill Clark at UAB. He mentions down the list Will Healy at Charlotte, who we know very well or fairly well. And then he mentioned one Power 5 possibility would be Louisville's Scott Satterfield. I don't know about that. And he did mention Clemson's offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott, and then Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien would just be that. Bill O'Brien would be that Bill O'Brien would be juice, but Zach, like we said earlier this week, he'd be that orange juice after you brush your teeth. That's Bill O'Brien. That's the taste that I have of Bill O'Brien coaching the Tennessee Volunteers.
That would not be a good hire, and I don't think that would happen. Again, that's like Lane Kiffin. That's just stupid. It's not going to happen. So here's a side note before we move forward, Austin. Yeah. I follow along, right? I'm the guy in the stands watching the fight break out between Dan Wolken and the entire Vol Twitter fan base. And then, yesterday news comes down, Dan Wolken took a victory lap on, what happened with Tennessee. And then, I think overall Tennessee, hired a respectable guy in Danny White. I think it was a surprise to the public that Tennessee pulled that quick. I haven't really heard from Dan Wolken on what he has to say about the hire. Has he kind of gone silent? I mean,
Dan Wolken broke the news.
No, he broke the news, but what did he say about it? Would he say it was a good or bad hire? I didn't hear that.
Well, and look, B-Ball Vol says we are a lot like Dan Wolken. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. We are not like Dan Wolken, and he says that we're
Spider-Man
lost.
Meme?
Huh?
Is it Spider-Man meme? I hate you, you hate me?
Well, like Dan. Who has Dan Wolken talked to? Who is Dan Wolken connected with? Dan Wolken is connected with athletic directors, and Dan Wolken is a water boy for John Curry and other athletic directors, and just says, yeah, so I'll help you with your PR spin and all that. So what Dan Wolken's opinion, I could give a damn about. Dan Wolken actually reporting something is different than his opinion.
I was just asking to see if it changed, right? Like we know his opinion on the Schiano stuff, but now that Tennessee overall, I think that they have gotten they've gotten good grades for this hire. Right?
Yes, and Zach Reagan brings up that Danny White took a shot on Twitter at Dan Wolken before, which makes him a perfect fit with the Vol fan base. You're muted. Is Zach muted or am I? Now you're back. Talk. No, I can't hear you now. Something happened to Zach's microphone all of a sudden, like mid-sentence.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you're back. You're back.
I'll have to adjust my mic. I think I know what happened.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, Lane muted him. So I'll let Zach mute or figure out his mic here momentarily. But first, we're going to talk about these NFL championship games, so stick around for that. We are going to I have two bets that I'm making this weekend in the NFC and the AFC championship games. But real quick, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. Whenever that injury happens in life to either you or someone you love in your family, make sure you know where they or you should get the best care, and that's in Franklin, Tennessee, also new site in Nolensville, the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org.
Let's see, are we on?
You are good.
That's quick teamwork by your IT guy right there. That's like a pit stop right now. I'm still alive. I'm a pit crew. I'm changing tires. I'm changing tires midway through our show. Look, don't go anywhere because this is big time football weekend. I cannot wait. Now I'm juiced. I thought also overall that Vol conversation, I thought it was quality. I'm very curious to see, but quickly, timetable for this head coach. Do you think this is going to happen this weekend? Do you think it's going to happen next week? Is it going to extend to even further? Like, what do you think the timeline of this thing is?
It's a good question. I honestly, I feel like pre-Super Bowl, which is February 7th, seems like a long way away. But I feel like it's by the end of next week. I think by the time we get to Friday next week, I think Tennessee has a head coach.
Okay, we'll find out.
And Rob says before National Signing Day, which is a good comment to bring up because National Signing Day is February 3rd, which is like 10 days away.
Now that college football messed that up, I don't even know what day
it still matters. But I think by next Friday, which is the 29th of January, I think they will have a head coach.
All right, we'll monitor that.
All right, Zach, I've got two bets to play at mybookie.ag for this NFC and AFC championship game. Again, mybookie.ag, code MyTitans to get extra cash with your first deposit. So, Zach, let's talk about your game first, because the Bucks and Packers are first up on Sunday afternoon. Tom Brady and your Bucks are looking to become the first team to play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. How you feeling about it?
I mean, we've been working really hard this week, but every sports fan can feel what I'm feeling when their team is in a massive game, especially when it's been years and years and years and years since they've been in a massive game. I mean, it's been since 2003 since Rondé Barber picked off Donovan McNabb since they've been in an NFC championship game. Tom Terrific has taken the Bucks back to prominence. It's going to be a tough game in Lambeau Field, though, right? Aaron Rodgers, MVP, probably, right? You just give him the trophy, playing at an all-time high. And here's my struggle, Austin. On November 5th of 2020, I had a feeling. I woke up with a gut feeling saying Aaron Rodgers was going back to the Super Bowl. I will not go back on that because that's what I think. And so I kind of sound like you, Austin, right? I'm predicting against the team I'm rooting for just to make me feel better, right? So I could be right.
Oh, you can be right or happily wrong.
I would rather be happily wrong, right? I'm sticking to Green Bay winning this game because they're at home. They're the best team. I think they learned a lot from last year's NFC Championship game, thrashing against the 49ers in San Fran. But I do think that Tom Brady is playing at a spectacular level. Leonard Fournette needs to learn how to catch the ball out of the backfield, but playoff Lenny, as they call him, has improved his game, and they're decent. Devin White and Lavonte David, that linebacking core. Ooh, give me more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Packers win, but I will be firing them cannons all day Sunday. Let's go, baby. Woo! Yes. Oh my! I'm a shot of adrenaline. It's like I have a rush. It's like I just chugged 5 Nosses. I'm not talking about Red Bull. I'm talking about those big ass, like, monster drinking SOBs that wear monster hats and ride dirt bikes that chug those things at Orgeron. I feel like I injected 5 of them into my veins thinking about this damn game. Hell yeah.
What does 38-10 earlier this season mean about this game? Anything?
No, I actually think that it helps the Packers, right?
I agree.
So, it's the same way for the Saints.
Yeah.
I predicted the Bucks beating the Saints because it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And you get that venom. That's why I said if the Titans played the Browns again, the Titans would have won. If the Bills played the Titans again, the Bills would have won because there is some venom from that shellacking. Aaron Rodgers, they went up 10-0. The Bucks scored 38 unanswered points in a spectacular late afternoon game. It just gave me the chills of the old Brett Favre, Warren Sapp days. But I don't think that helps Tampa.
I think the Packers win. And earlier in the week, I got Packers -3. It has moved to -3.5. I would still jump on that. I think the Packers win this game. The first championship game that Aaron Rodgers has played in Lambeau. So that's a big deal. The fact that this game is in Lambeau, I think helps out a lot. The Packers defense is just really good. And they know they can get after and bully. No doubt. But
their run defense is not great.
But they're still really good. They've got 2 pass rushers that are bona fide studs. They've got interior D linemen who can body up with the run game. And they got Jair Alexander. I'm excited to watch Jair Alexander against Mike Evans or whoever the main target is for Tom Brady on Sunday against the Packers. I do find that very interesting.
Yeah, and it's like Lattimore on Mike Evans last week. He shut Mike Evans down besides the red zone touchdown. Like, Mike Evans was obsolete, but that's why Tampa has gotten all of their wide receivers. I don't know what AJ or Antonio Brown's status is. Chris, they'll all play, I think. But Godwin's dealing with some things. Scotty Miller has to step up. Cameron Brate has to step up. And Rob Gronkowski in the red zone has to step
that catch that Scotty Miller made down the stretch of that game on the deep ball where he caught it and got down real quick. That felt like Wes Welker, Julian Edelman all over again, right? Yeah. So, like, I could totally see Scotty Miller having like 7 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. and the Bucks like somehow upsetting the Packers.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, right. I know you would, but I'm taking Packers -3/3.5. That is my pick for that.
Man, I just can't wait till Sunday. Like, screw Friday and Saturday. Get me to 2:05 on Sunday on a couch with a big screen television to watch football, really good football. Because look, the storyline, this is why the NFL just rocks. The Bucks and the Packers could both win. The Bills and the Chiefs could both win. The problem with college football, Notre Dame was never going to beat Alabama. Everybody knew it. It wasn't going to happen. Now, the Ohio State-Clemson game, right, there, that was a good matchup. Mm-hmm. You need more of those. But that's why the NFL is so dominant, and they just have it right. And that's why A to Z Sports has hitched our wagon to the National Football League, is they just have really good product, and this is the best product coming on Sunday.
All right, A to Z Sports, the second game, Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs 3-point favorite. It stayed at 3 points the entire time. I took it early because I thought it might jump, but Chiefs -3 feels like too good to be true, doesn't it? But the Bills haven't been playing that well, and Mahomes, who has been a full participant at practice for the last day or two, you feel confident that he's going to play. We all know that. And I think he's going to play well. The Bills defense, I don't know how to feel about the Bills defense against Baltimore because of bad snaps, Lamar being limited, and all types of stuff. And the one pick six, right? Like that makes the Bills defense look a lot better that they held the Ravens to 3 points. But I watched them give up a lot to the Colts the week before. I feel like the Chiefs win this game by a touchdown.
So here's why the line didn't move. And here's something to watch. If you're watching this game on Sunday, I'm not concerned about Patrick Mahomes' head. That dude's going to be fine. You play through that. He's fine. I'm concerned about Patrick Mahomes' foot or ankle. If you watched the game this past week against the Browns, something was wrong. And then you didn't get to see him, right? He was hobbled. He was limping. And foot injuries and ankle injuries, as we know from A.J. Brown, don't just go away. You can play through them. But I think that could be the equalizer. Patrick Mahomes' arm and intuitiveness and connection with Kelsey and Cheetah and all that, I think that goes a long way. But I think that's the reason why the line didn't move. I would watch to see his mobility and how that changes Andy Reid's game plan. I expect this to be a good game. I still expect the Chiefs. The cream usually rises to the top, right? Number one seeds. If I had to predict, I think the Chiefs and the Packers win because they're the two best teams.
And that's the Super Bowl that I want to see.
Right? Me personally, no. I would love to see a Bucks. Honestly, I want to see the Bucks play the Bills because I think that's the best opportunity for the Bucks.
Right. Once upon a time when I was a diehard Lakers fan in 8th grade, I was like, the Lakers are totally going to whip the Pistons' ass. I don't want to see the Pacers. And so what happened? The opposite. So you never know what you wish for.
That's why they play the game.
Yeah, no doubt. A to Z Sports here live. So I'm taking my two bets at mybookie.ag. Again, code MyTitans to get extra cash for that first deposit. I've taken both the Chiefs -3 and the Packers -3 earlier in the week. The Packers are now -3.5. I think it's still fine. If it gets to 4, that's where I'm like, or like, I think there's a likely push. There's a potential for missed extra points in Lambeau that could throw off a wacky score where you could be in a situation where a 4-point differential could be it, where the team needs, the Brady needs a touchdown at the end or something, and the Packers defense can stand strong. Okay, Zach, my heartbeat is up. My heart feels like it's in my throat. I'm nervous.
Well, you better clear it because you're going to have to use it.
I am very nervous. It is time for Ain't That Good News and for me to pay off the magic bucket where I have to sing a famous Disney song. I have prepared for it. I think I'm ready. I practiced last night. I practiced again this morning. So it's Ain't That Good News and me singing Disney songs. So, Zach, before we do that, tell everybody about the Tucker Agency.
Yeah, tuckertn.com. That is where you need to go to save money on your insurance. It's very, very simple. Will, W-I-L-L, at TuckerTN.com, Nashville's independent insurance agency, but they can help you all across the country. If you're in Knoxville, if you're in Middle Tennessee, if you're in Memphis, if you're in Kentucky, it doesn't really matter. All you got to do is email their team, and they will change your policy, life insurance, homeowners insurance, renter's insurance, and they'll change it for the best. You probably don't even know what you're paying for your insurance. The average customer that emails Will, W-I-L-L, at TuckerTN.com saves 20%. 20% on your insurance is literally money back into your pocket for other things. Put it towards, I don't know, vacation or bills or whatever, but that's money back into your pocket. That's W-I-L-L at TuckerTN.com.
A to Z Sports here live on the show. It's time for Ain't That Good News and for me to sing a Disney song. And to be honest with you, Zach, I'm really glad that our Vols audience did drop off a little bit. A little bit. It's still strong. The audience is still here.
I mean, there's close to 300 people watching live.
Yeah, but it was like close to 500 about 10 minutes ago with all the Vols conversation. So it's a big difference in me singing. So Kelkin says he can't wait.
It's kind of funny. So you're just picture yourself on stage of an audience of about 300 people. Off all of our platforms. They're waiting your
quick
performance.
Story. Kelkins, our boy. I went to college with Kelkins. There's this thing called All Sing at University of Tennessee where fraternities and sororities team together to do like singing performances. Kelkins got some pipes, man. Kelkins was our Aladdin when we did that back in the day. So Kelkin's got some pipes. He's got some real talent. I do not, however.
All right, let's get to it. Enough hubbub. I
was going to see if you wanted to do your good news before I just
hell no. I want to hear you sing. That's my good news. There you go. My good news is hearing you embarrass yourself by singing because you're not a singer. I'm not a singer. It's just hard. So, and you can thank your wife for this. She put yourself in this situation, right? She set you up for this, so let's hear it.
Okay. So I have the video that I'm going to play in my ear just so I can go along with it. It's a little bit better.
What's the song and let's go.
I was just gonna start singing and let you guys figure it out as I go.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. When he was a young warthog. When I was a young warthog. Very nice. Thanks. He found his aroma lacked a certain appeal. He could clear the savannah after every meal. I'm a sensitive soul, though I seem thick-skinned. And it hurt that my friends never stood downwind. And oh, the shame! Thought of changing my name, and I got downhearted every time that Pumbaa, not in front of the kids. Oh, sorry. Hakuna Matata, what a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata, ain't no passing craze. It means no worries for the rest of your days. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata.
Oh my gosh. That's good strategy on you. You kind of go with the Broadway themed talking lead up to the real hard part, which is singing. And, it was rough at times, but it was the first part was good, right? That's executable. But once you have to go to pitches, you're at the mercy of what God gave you.
But I had to go with what I knew, right? Like I had to go, like I know how Hakuna Matata goes, and so I can pull that off to an extent. And I also thought that, doing the verse about Pumbaa farting was also appropriate considering the show, right?
Fred wins the comment of the show. He says, Zach pulls out dueling pistol and shoots screen.
Look, You're going to have to do this at some
Oh,
point.
I fully understand this, but it doesn't mean that I cannot laugh and take in the moment that is embarrassment of trying to sing when one cannot sing.
I can't sing. I absolutely can't. And I know that. I've known that about myself for my entire life. That's one thing that I absolutely suck at. I can get away and do other stuff, but I can't sing.
Oh my gosh.
And Rob, when Austin closed his eyes to hit the high note, I died. Like, that was,
that you were like, it was kind of like, okay, I get, but I'm waiting for the sing, and then
that was my three voices. I had to do Timon, Pumbaa, and Young Simba. Young Simba, I believe, is voiced by a female. So Young Simba gives me a different difficulty level, but I had to go do it, right?
Yeah. Well, respect. So that was good.
It was good?
Good as in like entertainment, okay. Right? Like good sometimes content. We have, right? I mean, like not quality singing. I didn't say that.
Of course. But I got really nervous there. Like that's not easy. I've never sang in front of people. So there's that.
So there you go. Well, good news. So comment in the comment section. What's your good news? It is Ain't That Good News. This is what we do every single Friday. We try to end the week we argue a lot. We actually agreed a ton this week, probably the most in the history of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is some good news. That's some subtle good news, but I have some good news. First, the Bucs are playing in the NFC Championship game, but my real good news is something that the NFL is doing. Now, the NFL, you talk about PR nightmares of McDonald's and bags and all that other stuff. Well, the NFL, I saw this morning, is doing something I think correct. And Adam Schefter tweeted this out and says the NFL is announcing that the Super Bowl will host 22,000 fans. Well, what the NFL is doing is 7,500 of those fans will be vaccinated healthcare workers around the Tampa area that will be given free Super Bowl tickets. Something that we don't think about, right? So I talk about Corona Bros and what I think about the virus. Everybody in the chat, thinks about what they think about the virus. Well, I was walking Tux, my dog, the other day, and I ran into another guy that lives in my neighborhood. He was walking his greyhound, Frank, who actually was a champion greyhound that won 30 straight races, and now he's retired, which I thought was pretty interesting. But he's a nurse, and I was asking him about, like, on the ground floor, the impact of COVID and all that other stuff. And we don't really realize what our healthcare workers are doing, right? The in and out strain of 12-hour shifts or doubles or going home in the midnight hour, right? When somebody's sick, because this virus, it's real.
Yeah, or having to live in your garage away from the rest of your family for the year.
Right. And so it hit home because I had a conversation with him, but it also, when I saw that news, the good news is that the NFL is doing something correct in giving, 7,500 people and healthcare workers free tickets to the Super Bowl. That is something they will never forget. Let's just hope that they get to root on the hometown team. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. Ain't that good news here on the show? Give your good news here to end this week. We do this every Friday. My good news is, I got through the singing part, which I legitimately was terrified about yesterday when I had to think about what I wanted to do and try to go through different songs. I'm done with it. So that's great. But honestly, my good news is that Jeremy Pruitt was fired. That's fantastic news. The University of Tennessee did something that will help its fan base.
At what cost? I think it's a cop-out, Austin.
No.
What cost? You don't know.
There's new. We asked what's one word to describe the hiring of Danny White, and I remember one or two people said this: hope. It's now the Tennessee Vols fan base has hope. Jeremy Pruitt was not cut out to be an SEC head coach. We all knew that. Whether it was NCAA violations and sanctions or whatever, he was a sinking head coach, and they moved on from him. Regardless of the reason.
At what cost?
At the cost that they hired a legitimate athletic director.
That doesn't mean the violations and the punishment. It could not be like.
I understand that.
Look at what happened with Ole Miss, man. Like they were in turmoil because of what they don't have.
I get that, but that's because Ole Miss had to get rid of Hugh Freeze, who got you a damn Sugar Bowl. Like Jeremy Pruitt got them 3-7 losses to Georgia State and BYU that became embarrassment to their program, and that Jeremy Pruitt was not progressing. Jeremy Pruitt was going into the ground, and Hugh Freeze was different. You felt differently about what you were leaving. Tennessee is leaving a bad head coach behind and a bad athletic director behind and building towards hope on the future. Because we know this. We run a media business. If Jeremy Pruitt was a head coach for 2021 and Philip Fulmer was still the AD, Tennessee fans would stop caring through the entire offseason. And that's the worst thing that could potentially happen for a fan base, is to simply check out. And because they made the decision, however they came to it, the decision was made and they did the right thing overall. And the fan base has hope and optimism that they actually can care now. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be rocky. They're going to have sanctions, absolutely. But the good news is Jeremy Pruitt is not the head coach anymore, and Philip Fulmer is not the athletic director anymore. You got rid of the bad leadership, and now you're moving forward, and that's good news.
I don't disagree with that, of the reset and hope and all that. I'm curious to see what their new head coach, who it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
For that hope. But it's better than Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt was a Band-Aid, right? What do Band-Aids do? They cover up boo-boos.
And then when
right?
you see him on the street, you don't want to touch it because it might have a disease on it.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so they have thrown away the Band-Aid, right? They're still in the healing process, but maybe, I don't know. They just can't. They have to get this right. They can't get this wrong. They can't be in another situation over the next 3 or 4 years. And I don't wish anything bad at Tennessee. It's not like Ole Miss and Tennessee are rivals by any means, right? Like and they're not threat. So I, as far as my personal care, I would like Tennessee to have nice things. And the reason why is because they've had really bad things for so long. And I don't know. I'm just kind of tired of. I talk about it, right? It affects my life. I would like to see Tennessee turn a corner and win a big game. I want them to just beat Florida and Georgia and have it mean something at the end of the season.
No doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
The problem with the Florida win a few years ago, when Juwan Jennings took out that touchdown pass and they raced them at the end of the year, it didn't mean anything.
No, because Butch Jones ruined it.
Right? So I'm with you on that. We'll find out who their next head coach is probably sooner rather than later.
And good news, I was right. I was right that I felt like they were going to fire Pruitt with cause. I felt.
Look, we've predicted a lot of things. At one point you said no, and at one point I said yes. At one point I said so. You cannot that is not a right thing. There are so many shows, Austin, where you said, I don't think they're going to fire him.
Oh, I was down in the dumps. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So don't end the show like that. That's incorrect. Okay.
I'll end the show with a second verse of Hakuna Matata. Is that better?
No. Okay, Let's get the hell out of here.
All right,
I'll end the show high noon in an AFC Championship game. Titans-Ravens. Be there, be square. Make sure live notifications are on. We're going to try to go to the Super Bowl. If the Titans can't, hell, I'll try in my virtual world. We're live streaming on Facebook and on Twitter. You can check that out, noon Central.
You've got to avenge a loss.
I do, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard.
It's going to be real tough. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Zach will see you guys at noon Central time, right after the athletic director, Danny White, has his intro press conference for Tennessee. So noon Central for Zach's Madden AFC Championship game, Titans-Ravens. He'll see you then. I'll see you Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Have a